The truth has finally come to light, and it's more shocking than anyone could have imagined. Camilla's private jet flight logs have been exposed, revealing secret meetings abroad that could change everything we thought we knew about her role in the monarchy. Before we dive deeper into this unravelling scandal, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the latest royal revelations and hidden truths the palace never wanted you to hear. Tonight, we uncover how one missing heirloom sparked a chain reaction that escalated into a full-blown crisis, why Princess Anne confronted Camilla directly, and how the fallout led to Camilla fleeing the country on her private jet. This isn't just about jewels, it's about rivalry, betrayal, and a queen who may have just lost her crown in the court of public opinion. Subscribe now so you're always the first to know when secrets like these break open. It all began quietly at Raymill House, Camilla's private estate in Wiltshire. A missing royal heirloom, once belonging to Queen Elizabeth II, was suddenly discovered there under mysterious circumstances. The discovery alone raised eyebrows. But when word spread through palace corridors, suspicion turned to outright confrontation. Princess Anne, never one to mince her words, accused Camilla of theft and declared with icy finality that she would never be a true queen. Those words reopened wounds that had never fully healed, reminding everyone that their rivalry wasn't born yesterday. It had smouldered for decades. For King Charles, the incident was nothing short of devastating. Those close to him described him as shaken, almost broken, while William appeared grave and measured, unwilling to defend his stepmother in the face of such damning whispers. A private family meeting was called, discreet but tense, and the decision was made to search Raymill House. What they found, or rather didn't find, spoke volumes. No other treasures turned up, but the air of suspicion refused to clear. The scandal at Raymill House was not an isolated spark, but part of a greater firestorm. The heirloom was only the beginning. What shocked the public most was the next revelation. Camilla's private jet logs painted a picture of quiet escapes, late-night arrivals, and secretive meetings abroad. To her critics, it looked less like innocent travel and more like someone plotting from the shadows. And when those revelations collided with the discovery at her estate, the narrative began to spiral out of control. In a monarchy where image is everything, perception can be fatal. For Camilla, the perception was simple. She was once again being cast as the taker, the woman who inserted herself into places she never belonged. Whether it was Andrew Parker Bowles in Anne's past, Charles during Diana's marriage, or now the royal treasures tied to Elizabeth's memory, the story was the same. Camilla taking what wasn't hers. And this time, with evidence piling up, her carefully rebuilt image began to crumble before the world's eyes. The revelations surrounding Camilla's private jet flights became the defining twist in a scandal already teetering on the edge of chaos. According to the exposed logs, she had not only flown frequently, but chosen destinations that were anything but casual retreats. These weren't simple weekend getaways or charity visits. They appeared to be carefully timed trips, often aligning with key moments of tension within the royal household. For critics, it painted a damning picture. A queen escaping her duties for private dealings abroad, shrouded in secrecy. The question that echoed loudly was simple. What exactly was she meeting about, and with whom? When the story broke, the press wasted no time connecting the dots back to Raymill House. How could it be that a royal heirloom, one of Queen Elizabeth II's cherished possessions, turned up at Camilla's estate, only for her travel records to simultaneously reveal unexplained journeys overseas? For many, the coincidences were too glaring to ignore. The whispers turned into headlines, and the headlines into speculation that Camilla's reign was unravelling, not because of a single mistake, but a pattern of behaviour that had been cleverly hidden until now. Princess Anne, already furious after her confrontation, felt a renewed sense of vindication. She had accused Camilla of being unworthy of the crown, and now the revelation seemed to give weight to her words. Anne's supporters saw her as the last bastion of integrity within a family marred by repeated scandals, and her willingness to speak directly, to say what others dared not, only strengthened her stance. What was once private rivalry had exploded into a very public feud, reigniting decades of simmering tension between the two women. For King Charles, the private jet logs were the final straw in an already unbearable storm. He had endured the fallout of Camilla's reputation before, from the humiliation of the Camilla Gate scandal in the 1990s to the years of public hostility after Diana's passing. But this felt different. This wasn't just about old mistakes being dragged into the light. This was about current choices, current actions, and a sense of secrecy that he could no longer defend. The monarchy thrives on appearances, and in the court of public opinion, appearances are often more powerful than facts. Whether the meetings abroad were innocent or not hardly mattered anymore. The public had already made up its mind. A queen who slipped away on private jets while heirlooms turned up in her home was not a queen they could trust. And as the storm intensified, Camilla's position began to look increasingly untenable. The scandal's weight only grew heavier when the media began drawing sharp parallels between the flight log revelations and Camilla's long, complicated past. For decades, her critics had painted her as someone who takes, a reputation that first took root during her entanglement with Charles, while he was still married to Diana. Diana herself had etched that narrative into history with her unforgettable words. There were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded. That single line became a defining symbol of Camilla's role in the royal story. And now, with secret meetings abroad exposed, it felt to many as though history was repeating itself in a darker form. The reappearance of those echoes from the past gave new ammunition to detractors who had never accepted her as queen. Every old scandal was dredged back into the light, most notably the infamous Camilla-gate phone call of the 1990s, when a private conversation between Charles and Camilla leaked and embarrassed the monarchy on a global scale. At the time, Camilla had been forced into retreat, disappearing from the public eye until her image could be carefully rebuilt. Yet the jet log scandal seemed to unravel those decades of careful repair in a matter of weeks, if not days. What stung most was the contrast between her carefully curated rise and the swift collapse now unfolding. Camilla had, against all odds, reinvented herself from the other woman into a queen, standing proudly beside Charles at his coronation. For a time, it appeared that her rehabilitation was complete, that the public had moved past the wounds of the past, but the heirloom at Raymill house and the secretive overseas flights reignited the very same suspicions people thought they had buried. The whispers of betrayal returned, stronger than ever, and her enemies within the palace wasted no time capitalising on them. Princess Anne's voice, sharp and unyielding, carried further than ever before. She reminded those closest to the crown that Elizabeth II herself had wished Camilla only to be styled as queen consort, not as queen. In Anne's eyes, the scandal was proof of why that distinction mattered. To her supporters, it seemed as though Anne had predicted this unravelling years in advance, and her refusal to bend only made her look more principled in the face of Camilla's disgrace. By now, the narrative had shifted from questions of if to questions of when. When would Camilla address the accusations? When would the palace make a statement? When would Charles be forced to choose between his loyalty to his wife and the dignity of the crown? Each passing day without answers only deepened the crisis, leaving the monarchy exposed in a way not seen in generations. As pressure mounted, the palace found itself trapped in a suffocating silence. Every headline screamed about Camilla's jet-set disappearances, every commentator replayed her past scandals, and every whisper inside the royal corridors seemed to question whether her reign had already ended in all but name. Charles, normally so careful with appearances, looked visibly diminished in public. William, grave and unsmiling, offered no defence of his stepmother, further fueling speculation that he too had lost patience. And Anne, vindicated, unflinching, was painted as the lone royal willing to call the situation what it was, a disgrace that could not be ignored. Behind closed doors, a private meeting of senior royals was said to have turned tense, even explosive. Some urged patience, suggesting that Camilla might explain the purpose of her secret trips abroad. Others insisted that the damage was already irreparable, that the perception of betrayal mattered more than whatever truth she might eventually reveal. In the end, the family authorised a discreet search of Raymill house, hoping to uncover answers that could either clear her name or confirm suspicions. But when nothing else was found, the absence of evidence only fueled the mystery further. If Camilla had nothing to hide, why had she been so secretive? And if she did, where were the rest of the treasures? For the press and the public, the vacuum of answers was quickly filled with speculation. Some painted Camilla as a woman obsessed with control, unwilling to let go of objects and symbols that tied her closer to the throne. Others suggested the jet logs pointed to deals and meetings outside the reach of the crown, a double life quietly unfolding, while the monarchy presented its polished facade. Every theory seemed more scandalous than the last, and every rumour left Charles more vulnerable. The damage went beyond reputation. Camilla's very presence at Charles's side became a liability. What had once been billed as the monarchy's modern face now looked more like its Achilles heel. Her years of painstakingly rebuilding her image were unravelling in real time, and the tide of public opinion was turning faster than the palace could respond. For many observers, this was no longer just about jewels or flight records. It was about trust, the most fragile currency the monarchy had left. And when that trust began to fracture, so too did the image of unity. The royals had worked so hard to project. The scandal was no longer confined to Raymill House or hidden logs. It was spilling into the streets, dominating headlines, and threatening to overshadow everything the monarchy had stood for since Elizabeth's passing. The breaking point came swiftly and without ceremony. Camilla boarded her private jet and fled the United Kingdom. To some, it was an admission of guilt. To others, it was a desperate attempt to escape the relentless glare of scandal. Either way, the symbolism was devastating. The Queen, who had fought for decades to win public acceptance, was now departing under a cloud of suspicion, her legacy unravelling at 30,000 feet. Her dramatic departure left Charles exposed and vulnerable, forced to face the storm without the woman who had once been his greatest source of comfort. For William, the silence spoke volumes. His refusal to shield Camilla only confirmed to many that he saw her downfall as inevitable. And for Princess Anne, the moment was nothing less than vindication. She had warned for years that Camilla was never truly fit to wear the crown, and now the world seemed to be catching up with her. Public opinion split sharply down the middle. Loyalists defended Camilla, arguing that the press had twisted coincidences into damning evidence. But critics were louder, pointing to the heirloom scandal, the confrontation at Raymill House, and the damning private jet logs as proof that her rise to queen had always been built on shaky ground. In the end, perception mattered more than fact, and perception had turned decisively against her. The fall was as dramatic as the rise. From other woman to carefully rehabilitated consort to crowned queen, Camilla had once seemed untouchable. Yet one heirloom, one confrontation, and one set of flight logs had undone it all in an instant. The image she had fought to polish for decades was shattered, replaced once again with the shadowy figure of secrecy and betrayal that haunted her past. And so the question remains, is Camilla's reign effectively over? For now, she may still hold the title, but in the eyes of the public, and perhaps even her own family, the flight logs may have sealed her fate. The crown she worked so hard to claim now feels precariously out of reach. And the legacy she hoped to leave may already be lost to scandal. Camilla's downfall, exposed so publicly through the revelation of her private jet flight logs and the scandal at Raymill House, may go down as one of the most dramatic collapses in modern royal history. For years, she had carefully balanced on a knife's edge, striving to transform her image from the other woman in Diana's marriage to a respected queen, standing alongside Charles. And for a time, it seemed to be working. She attended engagements, softened her public presence, and even managed to win over skeptics who once swore they would never accept her. But scandals are relentless. They don't forget, they don't forgive, and they resurface at the worst possible moment. The heirloom discovery at her estate lit the fuse, but it was the jet logs, cold and undeniable, that set the explosion in motion. The significance of this scandal stretches far beyond Camilla herself. It has reopened old wounds within the royal family, shining a harsh light on rivalries that were never resolved. Princess Anne's long-standing disdain, rooted in both personal history and principle, has now been validated in a way that makes her look prescient rather than bitter. William's silence, heavy and deliberate, has left the impression that he sees his stepmother as a liability, and Charles, caught between love and duty, has been left diminished, stripped of the firm image of leadership his mother embodied and cast instead as a man too fragile to withstand the fallout. Equally important is the way this scandal has shifted the public's perception. For decades, Camilla worked to scrub away the stain of the Camillagate tapes, Diana's famous words, and the media's obsession with her role in breaking apart a fairy tale marriage. But those ghosts have returned with a vengeance, and now they feel more alive than ever. The story has come full circle. Once again, Camilla is the woman on the run, retreating into the shadows as the monarchy absorbs the damage she leaves behind. Only this time, she is not a mistress or a consort in waiting. She is the queen. That title, instead of shielding her, has made her fall even more devastating. The monarchy itself will not collapse because of Camilla's actions. It has survived abdications, divorces, and decades of scandal before. But the trust lost in moments like these leaves scars that never fully heal. The revelation of private jet logs may seem like a technicality, a detail, but in the public's imagination, it has become a symbol of secrecy, betrayal, and misplaced power. It has fed the perception that Camilla has always taken what she wanted, regardless of tradition or trust, and that her presence beside Charles is not a symbol of unity, but of fracture. What comes next remains uncertain. Will Camilla return to Britain and attempt to fight back, reclaiming her image with the same determination that once carried her from pariah to queen? Or will she remain abroad, a symbol of retreat and defeat, leaving Charles to patch the monarchy's wounds without her? Will Anne's vindication shift the balance of influence within the family? And will William step into a more decisive role as the people's trust in his stepmother collapses? These questions linger, unanswered, yet they point to a truth no one can ignore. The monarchy is entering another turbulent chapter, and Camilla is at its centre. In the end, the saga of the private jet logs is not just a story about travel records or hidden heirlooms. It is a story about image, trust, and the fragility of redemption. Camilla's journey from scandal to acceptance was one of the most unlikely in royal history, but her fall may prove to be even more unforgettable. Whether history remembers her as a queen who was unfairly maligned, or as one whose secrets finally caught up with her, one thing is certain: the revelations of these flight logs have changed her reign forever. And as the dust settles, one question lingers louder than all the rest. Has Queen Camilla's time already run out, even as the crown still rests upon her head?